But I want to hear about why woke is killing movies, Brandon.
Thank God.
Because you've been rattling off about how movies and games are woke.
Okay, let's just simplify for the audience. They don't have to watch the whole thing. Is Japan woke or not? Atrioc.
It's my presentation. We're going to go into it.
Oh, we're
talking
talking
about. I basically go through everything in the world and say woke or not.
Okay, wow.
Okay, good.
Finally, a podcast doing that.
Yeah, I was looking at the podcasts that are most successful in us, and they talk about woke a lot. So I thought I would really throw our hat in the ring.
Unfortunate that if we were following the model of success, that probably would be the way.
I want to talk about the movie industry. So, we live in Los Angeles. It's pretty important to the economy here, and I wanted to learn more about it. As you may or may not know, a movie just came out called Snow White.
Boo! Woke. Wait, hold on. Are we booing or cheering for this? You got to let me know.
Snow White was the first movie they made, right? Wasn't that Disney's first feature-length?
I believe so,
film?
yeah.
Before they
in
went.
like 36.
Before.
Well, turns out now that it's woke, it's gone broke.
Is this good or should I be cheering or booing?
Whatever your heart says. 43 million opening weekend. It's very low for a $270 million budget. Week opening, worrisome for Disney. And the natural response that I'm seeing on the internet is that Snow White has gone woke. Snow White has gone woke, and that is why this movie is flopping, and that is the main thing to blame. And of course, I believe that instantly because it aligns with my entire worldview. So I'm locked in, but I thought I would look into it more. And as I looked into it, I discovered really that we're at a real precipice, a real interesting time in the movie business, especially here in Los Angeles, especially here in America, that is, it's changing rapidly under our feet. And I want to talk about it more. So Snow White, while doing terribly across the board, box office wise, actually outperformed in red states. So possibly it's not 100% entirely on the woke backlash. And it could be more having to do with the fact that
so it's not woke enough for the blue states?
It's not woke enough.
Oh, damn.
Or maybe, Doug, it's possible that the lackluster performance of Snow White and Mickey 17 and Dogman and Captain America are not entirely on a woke, not woke spectrum. Maybe that's affecting some people's ticket sales. You guys are shaking your heads.
I don't understand.
Maybe I got to convince you more. You keep saying
stuff that makes no sense.
This is a podcast.
It's possible that the entire industry is going through some bigger problems. The 2025 box office is off to a terrible start. Not just Snow White, but every movie released this year is off to a pretty bad start. And we're way down from last year, which was already a bad year. So like 50% ticket sales in March are down from last year, and last year was a bad year.
These are, I assume, mostly like theater box office, right?
This is theater box office.
Okay.
Yes. This is not like,
Which I don't know if you'll get to this, but I assume streaming and competition is probably,
okay. We'll talk about streaming. But and it's about the movie industry, because there's still
like
most
movie, not even movie, like movie theater industry in a way, right? Okay.
Movie theater and like Hollywood studio productions.
Right. And the whole system. Yeah.
They're just, it's falling apart. They're selling less than ever. So is the problem supply or demand? That's kind of what I want to go through today. Is it that there's not enough good movies? Or is it that people aren't wanting to watch movies? Or is it some combination of both? Let's go through this real quick.
I'm sure there's no nuance to this.
In the comments will let us know there's no nuance. Do these box office flops, including Mickey 17 here, which turns out was not woke, but still flopped, they spell the end of Hollywood? And first thing people say is COVID. People will say, well, it's a reaction to COVID. Ever since COVID, people aren't going to movies as much. It's a COVID thing. I looked into that too. It turns out like every other out-of-home entertainment thing, like, for example, Broadway, sports, concerts. In the top right, we have people going to a live D&D show. These are up. They've recovered from COVID, and they are now up in sales. They've trended back upwards. Movie theaters are the only one of like out-of-home experiential type things that are still declining. So there's something unique happening in this industry. I want to take you back to 2024. I'm going to go back to last year. We're going to look at last year's box office and just get an idea. First of all, on the supply issue.
Have we considered that D&D might not be woke?
Possible.
None of those were woke. Only movies are woke.
This to go back into the woke.
D&D has famously purged woke.
Yeah, there's no...
I know D&D, all those circles, famously right-wing.
Well, the Dark Elves purged all the woke
D&D,
characters.
all-white, right-wing podcast.
Finally, a show for...
for the non-woke D&D crowd. Anyway, 2024... we're going to start at the 13th best performing movie of the year. And I want you to see as I go through, as I count up, if you notice anything about these movies. So this is Beetlejuice, the sequel to a 80s classic that did pretty well. This is Gladiator 2. It's the sequel to a 2000 classic that did pretty well.
Uh-oh.
This is Venom: The Last Dance. It is a third part of a trilogy of Venom movies that are part of a larger Spider-Verse that Sony owns that's part of a larger Marvel-verse. Okay? This is Sonic 3. This is Kung Fu Panda 4. This is Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. The 5th in the Monsterverse, but the 39th Godzilla movie. This is Dune 2. It's pretty cool. I don't know, we got kind of...
Hold on. Whoa!
This movie kind
For
of
the
fucked.
record, this one ripped.
This one kind of ripped. Still a sequel, okay? But kind of ripped. Mufasa the Lion King, a CGI remake of an animated movie. It's a prequel. Very necessary,
Is it
very
a prequel
important.
to the animated one or the live action
It's
one?
a prequel. Well, they call it live action, but it's all computer generated.
Are these live action?
Woke has just destroyed so many studios.
Woke
is
is
that
just
the pattern?
taking down-
Is that the pattern I'm seeing?
I mean, look how woke this Mufasa lion
Well,
is.
you film real tigers.
Yeah.
Okay, there are real lions in the
I'm-
original Lion King.
I'm beginning to notice the trend here.
Are you noticing the
I
pattern?
mean,
Despicable Me 4.
oh my.
And then
Oh,
we have Wicked.
Well, no,
Now,
that's part
Wicked
of the Wicked verse.
Is Wicked is, of all these 13 movies I've shown, I guess an original property, but it's based on a Broadway play, which is based on the 1939 Wizard of Oz
It's
movie.
based on the
which is
most
based
one
on
of
a
the
book.
most popular movies of all time. This is not an original property.
Yeah.
But it is the first movie I could even call remotely not a sequel of what I've shown so far.
Sure.
Super.
Which is
esteemed.
No,
crazy,
but
right?
that's we're
This is-
fighting to say
This
that.
is what we're
basically.
fighting to say.
Yeah.
Okay. We have Moana 2, Disney Back to the Well, Deadpool and Wolverine. Remember Logan? Did you guys see Logan?
Yeah.
Really emotional, powerful ending for the Wolverine
Made me
character.
want more Wolverine.
And then
yeah.
they said, let's bring him back.
Yeah.
Let's bring him back because there's more money to be made.
Logan is so good. It was such an amazing
And
movie.
the so
It's the Dune
undercuts
part
it,
2
you
of
know?
movies.
Yeah.
And it's back. And then we have the #1 movie of the year, Inside Out 2, where they added more emotions to tell more of the story. And this did really well, one of the biggest animated movies of all time. I don't know if you saw a pattern from all of the top 13 highest grossing films in the world last year, but I think customers are seeing a pattern. I think they're starting to feel a little bit of fatigue from constant sequels and reimaginings of the exact same stories. And I went back to make sure I wasn't crazy here. And this is 1999, one of my favorite movie years growing up. This is, again, the top 13. I picked the ones that aren't sequels, and you'll notice it's a majority of them. You got The Sixth Sense, you got The Matrix, you got Big Daddy, you got Green Mile. It's a big mix, and they're not all CGI. They're not all, family action comedies. They're like a broad mix. There's a couple, Julia Roberts, she's overrepresented in 99, but there's a horror movie, there's a comedy movie, there's Stuart Little, there's a big mix. And even for the Zoomer, because I know Aiden is 12 years old, I went to 2006, and it's the same kind of thing. 2006, movies you grew up with, there's a lot of new IP here.
The
There's
start
Departed,
of the
there's
Clickiverse.
I just
Yeah,
tried to,
it would today. Today, if Click hits the top 10, there would be a Click 2, Click 3,
Yeah.
Click Verse, Clicks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
We're in a different era. So things have dramatically changed, and studios have gotten more and more safe.
if we were to just look at the movies on this screen right now, we were joking about Click 2, right?
Yeah.
But these are like original properties that came out at this time. And then a lot of these did get a bunch of sequels, like Over the Hedge, Cars, Happy Feet, Borat, all got sequels.
You're right. Yeah,
And
100%.
those are movies that have come out in the 2010s and on, in the era where this like trend, I feel like, kind of started. The Departed didn't get a sequel, so that's kind of weird. But
Did you watch The Departed? Not a lot of room for a
Not a lot of
sequel.
room for a sequel.
I just feel it's a bit of a Logan situation.
Yeah, they bring him back.
We couldn't
The
have got,
Departed
oh, you don't
verse?
think we could get Deadpool and Departed?
Scorsese cinema moment. I would love a Departed verse. Okay, so anyway,
There's
you
like
can see.
one character left.
You can see that Disney, but not only Disney, all these major studios have begun playing it safe. Investors are noticing, consumers are noticing. People are afraid, first of all, in a declining sales environment, to lose their job. So they only want to greenlight movies that they know will be a success. And now we're getting to like 4th, 5th, 6th movie. Like the Pirates of the Caribbean series is long dead, and they are stomping on its grave because they're trying to recapture the magic of like a 2003 first time seeing Johnny Depp. Yeah, what's up?
Teacher, I have a question.
Okay.
How much do you think, which is maybe what you'll get into, of that, the fact that last year the top 13 movies were all sequels,
Yeah.
which is insane. Do you feel like that maybe it's that people do really like sequels, not that they're getting tired of it, right? Is it like those were the ones that were the most successful 13 movies? So maybe it's like this is what audiences actually want. Is there any
100%.
argument to that?
There's a huge argument to that in that it is working, but less and less effectively. It's like a drug.
It's
Okay.
following. We're
Like a
falling down the
short-term-
drain. That's exactly what I was thinking
Yeah.
of. Right? Is like the repetition of the formula is slowly like think about sequels in the 2010 sort of era and how year after year after year box office record getting broken. Right? And now we're kind of hitting the fatigue where it's enough to get some people going, but we're petering off.
The broad industry
and none of
is
the
struggling.
and because this is like the majority of movies coming out, I feel like less original films have the chance to be the next big hit or franchise or something like that.
I mean,
Because
they
there's
simply
less of
aren't
them
getting
being made in the
greenlit
first place.
outside of streaming services. Like
Yeah.
in terms of box office, they are not putting them in theaters because they're too risky. So we know that there was a supply problem. People are at least in somewhat getting fatigued with the same thing over and over. But there's also, as you are going to bring up, a demand problem. You can just see a long amount of people, large amount of people, talking about how their consumption habits have changed around movies, which is that streaming services and the ease of being at home have changed their ability, and COVID in some way changed their buying habits of like actually going to a theater. It thought it was a temporary phase. It's not, and they're spending more and more time watching things at home where it's cheaper or easier. They have more control. And some people are sad about that. Moviegoing is not what it used to be, and it's leading to a shrinking pie that is being filled only with sequels and safe properties. But there's also one other aspect of the demand that I want to bring up, which is that maybe older people are leaning more into their home, but they're still watching a lot of movies. However, among younger people, especially younger than us, they're choosing our content. They're watching Lemonade Stand instead of going to the movie, or they're watching I Show Speed, or they're watching. I mean, that's the two.
Never mind. Never mind. Let's Despicable Me 5. Push it
Send
out.
it out.
I don't care.
Moana 10. Keep it coming. Whatever keeps
coming.
us watching. So they're choosing creator content over premium TV and movies. YouTube is one of the biggest threats to the movie industry because even if they're not as high budget or as well thought out, it's exactly your niche. Whatever you as a person want, someone's going to make a 30-minute, 20-minute video exactly that for you for free. And it's really crowding out the ability of Hollywood to make what they used to be able to make. 56% of Gen Z and 40% of millennials find social media content, and that includes YouTube, more relevant than traditional TV or movies. And they feel a stronger personal connection to social media creators than TV personalities, which we monetize. So the last thing I want to say, that's the demand side. We talk about the supply side. The last thing I want to say that's really interesting about Hollywood and the movie industry right now is Xi Jinping. He's a great actor. He's going to be shaking things up.
Wait, is he woke or not woke?
Oh, he's as woke as they get. Nobody's
All right, good.
nobody's woker
Classically.
than classic Xi Jinping. Because you're talking about ChatGPT later, I used the new filter they added to make him
Oh
Studio
my
Ghibli.
God. Dude, this kind of rips.
Doesn't count.
Wow.
I like him more. He's friendly.
Dude, this
I would let him lead me. Yeah.
Anyway, so Xi Jinping. So the 14th movie last year. I said the 13, right? The one right below that was this movie in China called YOLO. And it's an entirely original movie about a woman who's down on her luck, who takes up boxing, and it's a comedy. This was a hit in China. And it was big enough to not get maybe on everyone's radar, but 14th in the world last year. And one of the biggest non-sequel, non-original property movie. This year, they decided to go into sequels. And they released this movie called Nuja 2. This movie has broken every record you can think of entirely inside the Chinese domestic box office. It is a massive, massive, massive cultural hit. This is, if I can play the video, let's see. This is a group of factory workers being given the day off work to all shuttle bus to the theater, print out thousands of tickets, and watch Nuja 2. It is a cultural phenomenon there that has now broken $2.1 billion in the box office. Which
2.1 billion? That's almost Avatar, like
exactly
Endgame
right.
level.
Chinese theaters don't need Hollywood anymore. For this first time this year, we are seeing a movie hit global top heights of box office, and it did no sales in America, like a few million maybe, nothing. And it did 1.8 billion in China. So it's again, so far in 2025, Nuja 2 has outgrossed every other movie in the world combined.
Jesus.
in every market. It is a wake up call that is like not fully appreciated by people in Hollywood yet, where no one saw this coming. After
I feel like
year.
the wake up call is a bunch of Hollywood executives are going to be like, we should make sequels for China. Like that's going to be the takeaway. It's like when, dude,
You're right.
We're all
they all get in the fucking situation room. It's 10 guys at a board meeting, and they're like, I think we just need another Transformers sequel.
right, right.
I mean, Transformers is a great example because they literally set half that movie in Shanghai.
No, they crush in China.
to do it in China. Like,
Yeah.
they
Just
planned
cater to
for
Chinese
this.
audiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they just gonna leave? Like at some point, the American studio executives are gonna be like, why would we crank out shitty sequels here if we can just literally shift the studio to be a Chinese studio for Chinese audiences and our crappy strategy will work there?
I'm hoping they take some positive lessons from this, but you're absolutely right. They probably won't. And like we are entering into a real, like it could be a spiral, a bad spiral for the American movie industry that they're not ready for. So again, it cracked the global box office top 5. It beat Star Wars Force Awakens and is closing in on Avatar and Titanic and Avengers Endgame, which is like the big 3 of all time. Like it could theoretically pass Titanic. It probably won't beat Endgame and the first Avatar, but it's like, it is up there in a way that nobody had in their bingo card for China coming out of this year. So people are trying to ask what it means. It's $2 billion box office run. What does this mean? Is this going to be replicated again? Again, it's a unique moment in time. It's probably not going to be every Chinese movie that comes out like this, but it's a sign that they're going to like start standing on their own 2 feet for making movies. And sorry, what?
I was going to say this does not teach us the lesson I was hoping it would about sequels. I was really hoping the moral of the story would be slightly different.
Yeah, I thought the YOLO would be a good example, but no, I mean, they did a sequel and it went crazy. But their movie industry is thriving in a way that like America in the 90s and 2000s, they have more original properties.
Well, they don't have the same sequel fatigue that we might, right?
They're going to get it later.
Yeah, they'll eventually come around.
And so our only hope as America is for Jack Black to put on his big boy pants and make this movie work. Because this is our last. I looked at the upcoming slate of releases for this year. If America wants to keep its streak of having a #1 movie every year, which I think it's had for a long time, it's Minecraft movie or bust. And that's where we're at. So I want to open the discussion. I want to talk to you guys, but it's just such an interesting time for Hollywood. So let me put this down.
Man, if we win with the Minecraft movie, that's like winning World War II with nukes. Like, you don't feel good about it. Like, this is us dropping our Western nuke. You know what I mean? And like, we will win.
Truman explaining why he had to drop the Minecraft.
We're gonna
movie.
win, right? We're gonna win.
It was tacky.
Literally,
I understand it was classless.
Okay, I'm sorry if this is insensitive, but Minecraft IP, that's Hiroshima. Jack Black, that's Nagasaki. Okay, these are 2 biggest.
You're using your 2 biggest entertainment bombs,
right? We're dropping both,
and it'll be an ethical dilemma for years to come.
The scene with the creeper farting
was that okay?
American.
Was that okay? Was this an ethical use of Jack Black and the Minecraft movie? I don't know. I don't think so. I would rather, I think, lose than deploy this onto society.
Maybe I'm dumb, but I kind of expect this movie to underperform for what it's expected to.
I think New Jaw 2 might take it this year. I mean, it's crushing. I don't think we have an Avatar level movie.
And also, similar to nuclear proliferation, once we use Jack Black here, the other countries will realize, China will realize they can hire him. They'll get their own Jack Black arsenal.
I don't know. There's a bunch of ways to take this discussion. One thing I had thought of is like, isn't it interesting that 2 of the highest grossing films of all time are Titanic and Avatar 1? Avatar 1.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's really...
And Titanic 1.
And Titanic
2 was
Titanic 2 was crazy though.
It's just a 2-hour shot of the ocean.
Titanic 2 deserved more.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that like as far as original stories go, those are both pretty high up there. Like there is a version of success you can find for those films, if not. So
difficult.
I
think the studios somewhat know that, but my understanding from reading this is like there's real culture of fear now because in an industry where the pie is growing, everyone feels like they can take risks.
Yeah.
But whenever it starts to shrink even a little bit, everyone clamps down on their job and their territory and their property and like what they have. And they do not want to lose it. They don't want to be the guy fired or the guy that makes the big flop, even though it's happening now. They're getting flop after flop after flop.
Right.
They're trying to be as safe as possible. But
so The other big thing that changed here, I go back to this interview with Matt Damon a lot, where he explains how the film industry has just fundamentally changed, primarily because of streaming. And it's not in the way that like, oh, streaming detracts from like less people want to go to the movie theater necessarily. It's changed the revenue structure of how movies make money. The old way is that if you made a film and it went to theaters and maybe it performed fine or it underperformed, you usually made it up on the back end with DVD sales. DVD sales were a huge part of how movies made money for
like
a long time.
Mid-budget film could be.
Yeah, and he was saying a big part of like why so many movies from like his era of coming up in acting, like if you take like Good Will Hunting, I think he uses as an example. He's like, the reason that movie could get made is you didn't need it to be a box office smash to make it. It doesn't need to be an amazing blockbuster hit to pay itself off. And that revenue has disappeared. You need it to succeed in the theater,
right?
Because after that, it dies. And then the theater has also the theater experience has been restricted and encroached upon by streaming and the demand for movies to reach streaming quicker because they used to run in theaters for way longer as well, right? So it's this compounding effect. And I thought that was really, really interesting, is like the way, like you just make less money when you make movies. So it needs to be like a cultural hit in order to make it
like
worth
a Barbenheimer type.
Yeah.
That's your way to do it.
Do you know why them going to streaming services after the theater run rather than going to DVDs makes so much less money? Is it the streaming services just don't pay as much, or people don't watch them as much given the other options they have? Like, you know, is it?
I think it's just the rights that the services are willing to pay for are less than the total revenue that you would get from all of the DVD sales to people,
Yeah, I mean,
or the
it's like
DVD
Spotify
or the
versus
DVD
CD
rental.
sales,
But
right?
it's
Like,
just less.
you just make less
streaming
money through
services
Spotify,
do not
yeah.
need to pay as much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure part of it is just there is way, way, way more supply of stuff to watch. So streaming services do not need to offer as much money.
They don't need your specific movie.
In the kids example, right? Your movie is competing with way, way more accessible media.
Right.
And I that was like the first thing, and then the other thing that had come to mind was the cost of making movies has risen a lot. So I was watching recently this like podcast clip of Adam Scott and Rob Lowe talking about how they would have made, or if it could have been made, Parks and Rec, which was a big part of how they broke out as actors through the popularity of that show. And they were talking about how creating movies specifically in California and LA has kind of died off because of the costs associated with making movies here. And a lot of like production costs have ballooned in ways that like limit the types of products that can be made. So it's not just about the revenue, it's also about the upfront costs. And there's this like big fight of like where you can even make productions now. Like a lot of other countries or other cities offer like tax credits for you to come there and make stuff.
Half the shows are made there.
Yeah. And Rob Lowe makes a point of like how he was working on a new project, and the main place that offered to give him the tax credits necessary to make the show was in Europe, I believe. And he just said, I can't do that. Like I cannot move my life to Europe for the duration of what it takes to move the show. And then the show just died. So I think there's another part of this where the cost being so limiting in either California specifically, or maybe the US in like a broad sense. I know like a lot of production has moved to places like Atlanta, for instance. Like I think they did like all of the Avengers in Atlanta because of the like facilities and like tax credits and stuff they got there.
Right.
But that's kind of the two industry changes that have come through watching those that I learned about was like, okay, costs going up, limited opportunities of where you can affordably film things, and then a limit and cap on the revenue you can actually make.
Do you guys watch movies in theaters anymore? Like, is that a regular part of your?
Okay,
No.
You actually reminded me. I'm getting excited because this is the other point I wanted to make.
Okay.
I go to the theater all the time. I actually
still do?
I actually watch movies all the time, and I think an unfortunate thing, reading like those Reddit clips or like Reddit comments about how the movie going experience is different now. I do agree in a broad sense because the number, like you showed the list, like there's definitely a change in the quality of movies and the types of movies that are getting released now. But original stories and good movies still get released all the time. I go to AMC with like my AMC Stubbs pass that I have.
You're a Stubbs
with
pass guy?
Yeah, because my girlfriend got me into it. And we just go see movies all the time. We just watch new stuff. And there is good new movies that just come from I feel like a more limited subset of studios now. Like it feels like A24 is like one of the only studios that like stamps original properties out. We just saw like earlier. Was this earlier this year or last year?
Companion?
We saw, I haven't seen that yet.
It's fire.
But we saw Conclave in theaters. I thought Conclave was amazing.
I have a question. Did you see Snow White?
Fuck no.
Okay.
It's too woke.
Too woke for you.
Too woke for me and my girlfriend. I think, but movies like that, I don't see because of, and I didn't see, I say this as a made fun of, bullied, like Marvel head.
Yeah.
I didn't go see that new Captain American movie because I'm just fatigued. They don't feel like they mean anything anymore. I always hated the like live action format Disney movies because it's like, grow up, make something new.
telling a child at Disneyland, it can grow up.
Princesses aren't real. Okay, we live in a democracy.
No, but that's the thing. They don't make those movies for the kids, right? It's like they are for kids in some ways. No, they do in some ways. But why do they have to revert back to old properties? It's because in the same way that Disney, like the average age of the like Disneyland goer now is like way higher than it used to be, right? It's a different market that they're trying to like get money from and appeal to. I think the main point I'm trying to make is this. As much as I want to sympathize with the movie-going culture has changed commenter, it's like I go to movies all the time, watch good movies and enjoy them, and just not a lot of people go to them. And it's like you can still go see original good movies.
I want to latch on that though, because I was thinking about the same thing. I was like, there are good movies. There's a movie called Black Bag just came out. It looks awesome. I want to see it. It's not going to do very well. I think, and this is like the bigger discussion, is like, it's almost like the decline of the monoculture because half of the fun of watching a movie like that is knowing someone else watched it and you can talk about it. But if you go alone, it's still enjoyable, but it feels very, I don't know, isolated or disconnected in a way that like some of those top movies from 2006 or 99 that I showed you, that was almost a fun cultural event where I would go see Talladega Nights or Click or whatever. And you could talk about it with all your friends at school. I think there's a loss of that makes it less valuable.
Yeah, and if you have, we talked about this last week, if you have a culture that, or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, a culture that is broadly becoming less social, right?
Yeah.
Which we've seen and we've talked about, if that is broadly the direction we're going and people are consuming media more often on their own, the movie theater experience is not that great by yourself. It's fine. If you are consuming media on your own, why would you not do it from the comfort of your home?
True.
Right?
That's
so
also
it's the
true.
pattern for society already is we are becoming more isolated with how we consume things and how we socialize. Like it makes more sense to do that at home. The movie theater experience is like, I don't think I've ever gone to a movie by myself. Like, you know, it's almost like a taboo to do that.
Yeah.
Even more so than like eating at a restaurant by yourself, right? And that probably hasn't gone away. And so you just have less people like you who still are social, right?
Well,
like, are you still going to movies?
No.
Right, I'm not. And we've talked about this. Of the three of us, you're the one still trying to maintain social.
You're trying to keep the
You're
society
the
going.
outlier, right? And so probably most people are like you, where they're like, oh, because movies are great. Movie theaters are fun.
Yeah.
But,
I
but
agree.
Not enough people want to go.
If I were arguing against myself, I think there's two ends to this. There's the point that you're making. There's like the after you've seen it, cultural participation aspect.
Because obviously,
of it.
like Barbenheimer, Avengers, like some
Exactly.
things break through and they still do great.
and
Right,
and they do amazing.
yeah,
right?
it's very feast or famine.
So it's like proof that that still can break through in the current time. And then on the other end of it, I feel like I'm taking a very like pull yourself up by your own bootstraps approach to movie watching, which I acknowledge that a big part, it's like, well, the average person isn't fighting through that many layers of friction to go see an original movie that they may or may not like. Like I recognize that. And I think part of like changing the culture in the movie industry is like, well, maybe 2 decades ago, you went to the theater or you might think about going to the theater and the movies you happen to be available when you finally decide to go are a wider array of original stuff. Like 20 years ago, we're deciding to go see a movie and it might just be The Departed, right? But
You're
now,
6 years old, 20 years ago. You
And
are
I'm
not
seeing-
allowed to see The
I'm allowed
Departed.
to
No,
see The
you're not
Departed.
allowed to see The
I'm
Departed.
allowed to see The Departed. I would see
I want
it.
to see it.
I'll do this is small
Tell
side
me
thing.
more about this wonderful society 20 years ago.
I went to. I'll never forget this. I was on a date. It was a bad date movie, by the way.
Okay.
I was 16. I was turning 17 in a week, and I was going out with a girl who was a year older than me.
Okay.
And we went to go see The Wolf of Wall Street, and we were buying our tickets. And I went up to the guy second, and he had just seen like my date buy the ticket before me, and I'm like, please, let me buy this ticket. And then he just said, "You're good, homie." I'll never forget that guy. But yeah, I think the 20 years ago, you might just go see, like, you want to go see a movie, you might see The Departed because that happens to be playing. But now the range of movies available for you to see is like more likely to be sequel, remake, whatever.
If you're going to be the savior of the industry, you need to see Minecraft movie at least 3 times on opening. No, don't say no. You're standing up for this.
You know, I,
This is our last hope.
America could lose our streak.
America
okay?
could lose our streak.
We're like
And if
30
you-
years running.
It's
That's
on
it.
you. You have to watch it on loop.
We're busy.
I'll have you know, I've walked in LA and walked next to Jack Black, and I feel like that's like me going to the movie. That's enough.
You hate LA and you're a name dropper? You should be
What?
proud to be in this.
I can do
city.
both.
I'm going to be honest. Same thing. Like, downtown
Yes,
LA,
sir.
he was hanging out. He was doing vlogging back in the day. Oh, it was pretty great.
Yeah.
Oh, Jablinski
everyone in
games?
LA is
Yeah,
hanging out with
Jablinski. So
Jablinski.
I think that means you got to take the hit. You, Atrioc, have to go watch the Minecraft movie 3 or 4
until
times.
Jack Black talks to me.